Most business owners think they have a competition problem. They think the reason they are struggling is simple. The product is not strong enough, the service is not different enough, the marketing is not aggressive enough. So they keep improving, keep adjusting, keep trying to beat other players in the same field. But that is not the real game. In business, the biggest winners are often not the loudest, not the most creative, and not even the most talented. They are the ones who control the point that others are forced to use. They do not always dominate the whole market. Sometimes they control just one small step, one passage, one dependency. But that step is so critical that everyone else must go through them. That is where leverage begins. And once you understand this, you start seeing business differently. You stop asking, how can I be better than everyone else? And you start asking a far more dangerous question. What part of the system has become unavoidable? Because the truth is brutal. The entrepreneur who competes for attention may look impressive, but the entrepreneur who controls the path gets paid first. And in many industries, the real monopoly is not visible at all. The illusion of competition. From the outside, business looks like a battlefield. Companies fighting for attention, brands trying to stand out, entrepreneurs pushing to be better, faster, cheaper. And at first glance, it makes sense. If you improve your product, you should win. If you work harder, you should grow. If you market better, you should dominate. But look closer. In most industries, the players who follow this path are stuck in a cycle. They improve, but so does everyone else. They lower prices and competitors respond. They innovate and the market catches up. What looks like progress is often just motion, because competition has a hidden rule. The more you compete on visible factors, the easier it becomes to replace you. When your value is based on being better, someone only needs to be slightly better to take your place. When your value is based on price, someone only needs to be slightly cheaper. When your value is based on speed, someone only needs to be slightly faster. And over time, this creates pressure. Margins shrink, effort increases, control disappears. This is why so many business owners feel like they are running harder every year, but not moving forward. They are trapped in a game where the rules are designed to keep everyone competing, but no one in control. The market rewards improvement, but it does not guarantee power, because power does not come from being better inside the system. It comes from standing in a position the system depends on. And this is where the illusion breaks. The goal is not to win against competitors. The goal is to stop playing the same game. Because the moment you step out of pure competition, you start looking for something else. Not advantage, not differentiation, but dependency. Why most businesses don't really own anything. Most business owners believe they are building something that belongs to them. A brand, a client base, a source of income. But ownership in modern business is often an illusion. Because what matters is not what you build, it's what you control. And in today's economy, control is rarely where people think it is. A freelancer may have skills, experience, even loyal clients, but if their opportunities depend on platforms like Upwork or Fiverr, then their visibility is not under their control. An online seller may have products, branding, and revenue. But if their store depends on Shopify and payments run through Stripe, then their business relies on infrastructure they do not own. A content creator may have an audience and thousands of views, but if distribution depends on YouTube or TikTok, then access to that audience can change overnight. Now consider the implications. If the platform changes its rules, your reach can drop instantly. If the algorithm shifts, your growth can disappear. If your account is restricted, your income can stop. And there is nothing you can do about it, because you don't control the system, you operate inside it. This is the hidden fragility of modern entrepreneurship. It looks scalable, it feels independent, but underneath, it is deeply dependent. Most businesses today are not built on owned assets, they are built on rented access. And rented access always comes with conditions. Conditions you cannot negotiate, conditions you cannot predict, conditions you cannot fully protect yourself against. This does not mean these systems are useless. They are powerful, but they are not yours. And until you understand that distinction, you will keep building value in places where you have no control over how that value is distributed, limited, or even removed. Real ownership begins when dependency ends, or when you position yourself on the other side of it. The toll booth effect. Imagine a road between two major cities. Every day, thousands of vehicles travel from one side to the other. Workers, businesses, deliveries, opportunities. The flow never stops. Now look at the people on that road. Some drive faster than others. Some have better cars. Some know the route better. They are all competing, trying to arrive first, trying to be more efficient, trying to win. But none of them control the road, and none of them control what happens in the middle. Because at a certain point, every single vehicle must slow down, not because they want to, because they have to. There is a gate, a narrow passage that cannot be avoided, a place where movement becomes conditional. That place is the toll booth. The toll booth does not race. It does not compete. It does not need to be faster or better. It simply sits at the point everyone must cross. And because of that position, it gets paid every time. This is what leverage looks like in its purest form. The drivers focus on speed. The toll booth controls access. The drivers fight each other. The toll booth collects from all of them. Now, bring this back to business. In every industry, there are roads like this. Paths that customers, money, or information must follow. And along those paths, there are moments where the flow slows down, where a decision must be made, where an action must happen before anything can continue. That is where the toll booths exist. Payment systems, booking platforms, distribution channels, verification steps. They may look small, sometimes even invisible, but remove them, and the flow breaks. No transaction, no access, no continuation. This is why the owner of a critical point does not need to dominate the entire market. They only need to control the passage, because when movement depends on you, revenue follows automatically. And this is where most people get it wrong. They try to win on the road, instead of asking, where is the road forced to stop? Because the moment you find that point, you are no longer just another player. You become part of the system itself. What an invisible monopoly really is. When people hear the word monopoly, they imagine something obvious, a giant company, a dominant brand, a player so big that no one else can compete. But the most powerful monopolies rarely look like that. They are not always visible. They do not always dominate the entire market. And in many cases, they are not even perceived as monopolies at all, because their power does not come from size. It comes from position. An invisible monopoly is not defined by how much of the market you own. It is defined by how critical your role is in the system. If your presence is optional, you are competing. If your presence is required, you are controlling. That is the difference. An invisible monopoly exists at a point where alternatives are limited or inconvenient. Switching creates friction or risk. The process cannot continue without that step. It is not about forcing customers to choose you. It is about becoming the default path they follow. This is why these positions are often overlooked. They are not glamorous. They are not marketed as revolutionary. They do not attract attention. They are embedded, quietly integrated into how things work. And that is precisely what makes them powerful. Consider how many transactions depend on a payment layer, or how many decisions depend on a trusted intermediary, or how many industries rely on a standard that everyone accepts without questioning. These are not front-facing businesses. They are structural positions. And once a position becomes structural, it gains stability. Not because it is protected by law or scale, but because it is protected by dependency. This creates a different kind of advantage, one that is not easily attacked. Competitors can copy your product. They can improve your service. They can even outperform you in visible ways. But if they do not control the same position, they remain downstream. And downstream players always depend on upstream control. This is why an invisible monopoly does not need to be aggressive. It does not chase customers. It does not fight for attention. It does not react to every change in the market. It remains stable, because everything else is built around it. And once you understand this, your objective changes completely. You stop asking how to grow faster inside the system. You start asking where the system itself depends on a single point, and how that point can be owned. How to identify a control point. Understanding the concept is one thing, applying it is where everything changes. Because control points are not always obvious, they are rarely labeled, and most people move through systems without ever stopping to analyze them. So the question becomes simple: how do you actually find one? Step 1. Map the flow. Every business operates inside a sequence. A customer does not appear and pay instantly. There is a path, from attention to interest, to trust, to transaction, to delivery. Your first job is to map that path clearly. Not in theory, but in reality. Where does the customer come from? What do they see first? What steps do they take before paying? What happens immediately after? Most people skip this step. They focus on their role instead of the full system. But control never exists in isolation. It exists in the flow. Step 2. Locate the friction. Once the flow is visible, look for resistance. Every system has points where things slow down. A moment of hesitation, a need for validation, a technical step, a repeated action. These are not problems. They are signals. Because friction reveals dependency. Ask, where do people get stuck? Where do they need help every time? Where do errors happen? The more frequent the friction, the more valuable the position. Step 3. Identify the break point. Now, go deeper. Ask one decisive question. What happens if this step disappears? If the answer is nothing changes, then it is not a control point. But if the answer is the entire process stops, you are getting close. A true control point is not helpful. It is critical. Without it, nothing moves forward. No transaction, no trust, no completion. This is where power concentrates. Step 4. Measure dependency. Not all control points are equal. Some are weak, some are strong. You need to evaluate. How often is this step repeated? How many people depend on it? How difficult is it to replace? How painful is it to avoid? The stronger the dependency, the stronger the leverage. A powerful control point is used frequently by many with no easy alternative. Step 5. Position yourself. This is where most people overcomplicate. You do not need to build a massive system from day one. You need to insert yourself, precisely, as a tool, a connector, a service layer, a gatekeeper, a standard. Something simple, but unavoidable. The goal is not to control everything. The goal is to control the moment that matters. Step 6. Secure the position. Once you are in that position, you strengthen it by making switching costly, becoming the default choice, increasing reliability and trust, integrating deeper into the process. Over time, what started as a useful step becomes a necessary one, and that is the shift. You are no longer chasing customers. You are part of the path they must take, and when you reach that point, growth is no longer something you force. It is something the system delivers to you. Final punch. Most people spend their entire business life trying to win more clients, win more visibility, win more market share, and for a while, it works. They grow, they improve, they move forward, but they remain exposed because they are still playing a game where the rules can change at any moment, and when the rules change, everything they built becomes fragile. This is the limit of competition. It rewards effort, but it does not protect position. What protects position is control. Control over a step that others depend on. Control over a moment that cannot be skipped. Control over a path that continues with or without you, but functions better because of you. This is where the shift happens. You stop thinking like a participant. You start thinking like an architect. You no longer ask how to grow inside the system. You ask where the system itself depends on something stable, and how you can become that point. Because in the end, the market does not reward the one who tries the hardest. It rewards the one who is positioned correctly. So, stop trying to win the race. Find the road, find the point where it narrows, and place yourself there. Because once you do, you are no longer competing, you are controlling.